Welcome back to PS with Jen. Today we're going to talk about hormone replacement therapy, why the Women's Health Initiative got it wrong, and why waiting is costing you your health. So if you are a woman that has heard you're about that age, or it's just menopause, or hormones are dangerous, then this episode is for you. I'm Jennifer Powell, a family nurse practitioner and a provider that's excited to tell you about this incredibly important information. This conversation impacts millions of women, and for years we've been told that hormones are dangerous when just recently the black box warning has been lifted. If you don't know what a black box warning is, this was when the Women's Health Initiative was giving all of these misleading recommendations of high risk. And so we weren't able to access all of the hormones that we needed to maintain health because the physicians that were supposed to be prescribing were afraid that the risk would outweigh the benefit and that they would be in danger of their license by developing blood clots and stroke in their patients instead of a positive outcome. Hormones are essential, and we are looking for hormones to create chemical messages that are going to every cell, every organ in the body. We want to make sure that we understand how to function protectively. We want optimal repairing. We want to have optimal health. And as we are aging, we are depleting of essential hormones that help us to function at our optimal level. As we age, that hormone protection decreases, and this puts us at higher risk for heart conditions, for cancer, for Alzheimer's, and for osteoporosis. These are things we want to be protected of. And when we are optimally hormonally balanced, we don't have that same risk. We want to make sure that when we felt our best, when we were sleeping great at night, when we weren't stressing or needing a nap by 3 or 4 in the afternoon, we were hormonally optimized. And now as we reach out to our physicians and our primary care for support, we're told that these are not in our best interests, that the risks outweigh the benefits. Well, today we're going to talk about how that is no longer the case. We hear over and over again, that's just menopause. But if we can get ahead of it, we can substantially decrease our risks. We want to make sure that we're being tested, we're being evaluated, and we're understanding all of our options. Estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone are all being identified in today's important hormone issue. And so we want to make sure we're seeing a provider who understands supporting those. There are different forms of hormone replacement, and it is injectables, it is pills in oral forms, and there's also pellets. So when I think about optimizing hormones, I think about protecting us in our cardiovascular risks, protecting our bone. We have a 50% increase of cardiovascular disease for those who are not hormonally optimized. And the silent killer for women is cardiac disease. Why not support with hormone replacement? Where is the risk? Let's clarify. So breaking down our hormones one by one, we want to talk about estrogen first. This actually supports 400 different functions in the body. We are noticing estrogen decline when we have things like hot flashes and brain fog. We want to make sure that we're not suffering with joint pain, vaginal dryness, mood instability, or memory loss. It's responsible for things like vaginal blood flow, improve bone density, making sure that your brain health is optimal, that your mood is supported, that your cardiovascular health is on point, and making sure that orgasms are enjoyable. There's so many different variables of timelines where people are decreasing in estrogen. Progesterone is the next hormone that we'll talk about, and that is supporting sleep. It's making sure that your anxiety is calmed. The bones are also supported by your progesterone and your lipids. Cholesterol is really important. We're noticing that we're having this insulin sensitivity and our cholesterol is climbing. But just remember that progesterone is going to decrease to 0 unless it's supported and repleted. You'll have decreased thyroid signaling without progesterone, and we want to make sure that our progesterone stays balanced. Hormones are a seesaw, and so when you manipulate one or are running out of the other, they balance each other out. And so when you have progesterone optimized, it's going to also support the estrogen signaling and the effects of your estrogen as well. Finally, we're going to discuss testosterone, which is the most misunderstood hormone ever. We think it's only for men. Men think they have no estrogen. We are all a complete round of hormones. And so women also need testosterone support. We want to make sure that we understand without the testosterone that our brain, the breast, our bone, these aren't protected. It does help improve libido. That's not the case, but it's not the only reason that we want to have testosterone on board. We want to make sure that our energy is there, that we have muscle support, that we're not losing muscle more rapid, because then our metabolic efficiency is going to decrease. As you disintegrate of muscle, your metabolism is slower, your bone support is less, and your risk of injury, hip replacements or falls or risk become greater. And so we want to make sure that testosterone stays optimized to make sure that all those functions are there, but that we stay free from disease. Hormones begin to decrease as early as your 30s to 40s. So really paying attention to the signaling that your body is giving you and the messages of noticing some of these subtle changes that eventually become really prominent and completely life disrupting. I know I mentioned Alzheimer's, cardiovascular, diabetes, and osteoporosis over and over again because it's so important for you to understand that there's no wrong time to start hormones, but delaying is going to decrease how much support and how much decreased risk that you have. I also forgot to mention depression. So that mood stability and that depression support is also important. Having these hormones balanced also supports the thyroid and that ability to stay happy and stay your best self and to enjoy everyday life. We're living longer and we need this support. We have more challenges and more risk of lowering hormones early because of the hormone disruptors. We've talked about this in other episodes of, scents on everything of, this smelly fabric softener or the plug-in Glades, the perfumes that we need, the lotions and potions that we wear, the high stress that we're navigating as entrepreneurs or men and women in today's American dream life. And we want to make sure that we are staying optimal, supporting our lifestyle when we looked and felt our best. So in 2002, the Women's Health Initiative produced a study that had used synthetic progestins, not bioidentical, and horse estrogens. And so these aren't bioidentical. They actually function very differently in the body. And so when this study came out, they had a huge hazard of red flags, increased blood clots, and increased risk of stroke that were being announced and shared with the public. This changed daily practice of providers then coming to a point where they were either not comfortable to prescribe or completely declining when the patients would come in, sharing their symptoms and requesting hormone support. This trickled into our whole next generation. In 2017, the original publishers came back and they shared this misinformation. It was misleading and that the risks were definitely over stated and that this risk was not what we thought it was. Other countries didn't follow suit and they didn't miss this opportunity for protecting our hearts, protecting our brains, protecting our decreased risk for osteoporosis and cancer. And so you'll see this uptick of autoimmune and death by pretty significant advanced aging that we're seeing because of the lack of support that many females were able to receive for hormones. And so we know in healthcare that when we actually have some of this research happening, it takes about 30 years to implement change into our everyday practice. You're going to see providers who, even though they've learned that the black box warning has been removed, even though they understand like there is improvement, it takes time to educate, to empower them to be thoughtful in their decision making and to be able to understand how they can optimally support. Still in standard healthcare, there's a lot more options for people when it comes to the different forms of therapy, and that is oral estrogens. These do have a higher risk. We think about birth control, but we also think about patches. And so we have the patches and we have topical creams. These can lead to variation in absorption and decreased levels that are a little bit more unpredictable. We also have injections, and I know I don't personally have any patients that are doing the injectables, but it is nice to have an option. It can lead to actually an emotional roller coaster and a hormone roller coaster because of, again, dosing. The injections are once to twice a week. Finding that ability to support your hormone levels can be tricky, but for those who male patients that still want to have a family, supporting your testosterone can decrease sperm count. So it's important to know that you can do the injectables and have them as a support, but ultimately pellets are going to be our chosen option at Powell Studio because it's going to give you that consistency in hormone replacement. It's bioidentical, not synthetic. For women, it's lasting every 3 to 4 months that we are going to replete. For men, it's only twice a year. And so once you're able to start with lab work and find out where your starting point is, we combine that with not only your lab levels, but also your symptom checklist. I'm using a company called Avexius. Learning from them was so empowering because when I had originally treated and been supported with hormones, I used a different company and it delayed us impacting others for 3 extra years. I was poorly managed, I had a rapid release of hormones, and I didn't have a positive experience. I was checking out dads that weren't my husband. I was so confused on why I had this huge surge of testosterone. And then with that came a huge dump, which ended up to emotions and estrogen release and estrogen dominance. None of this was my goal. I want to make sure that we have steady levels of hormones, and by using our bioidentical hormones with Avexius, they have the only patented pellet, which I was so impressed by to learn from, is that they use triamcinolone, which decreases inflammation and scar tissue, as well as cellulose. That wrapper allows for a nice, slow, gradual release. This pellet is placed for men above the belt and for women below the belt. We have subcutaneous fat in that area, and so absorption and blood flow and circulation is great. And we want to make sure that you have no pain and discomfort. It's numb. The procedure takes only a few moments. And then, you have a steri strip and a pressure dressing that stays on for approximately 5 days. And you are so easily managed as far as having optimal results of improved health, wellness, mood, energy, stability, libido. We've come to realize that being proactive with our health and optimizing our hormones as early as possible has prevented a lot of the exacerbation of our concerns. So when we think about having that cardiac disease, more inflammation and cardiac risk, we can prevent that altogether. When we think about, restoring from decreased bone, we would have a higher risk of fractures. We want to be ahead of the game. We want to make sure that we are preventing disease instead of playing catch up. To summarize, I just want to make sure you guys know that hormone replacement should not be optional. It really is a foundational support that optimizes your longevity, that maintains optimal health. And fortunately, at Powell Studio, we've been implementing this in our office for years. I feel so fortunate that we are ahead of the game, and I look forward to supporting you as you build more confidence, knowing that the black box warning shouldn't have been there in the first place, but now is officially lifted. We're going to integrate and continue to support other providers, having confidence to make sure everyone can have all of the hormone replacement and support that they need.